Hi everybody! So I wanted to talk about all of these P's and Q's, okay? So we've got a number of problems here from Unit 2, Lesson 2, and P and Q, I would call them variables here, and the idea is just that P can be any number, Q can be any number, okay? So let's start here. It says explain how to add P and Q. So that's P plus Q. If P is negative 2/7 and Q is 1/7. Okay, and then it says show the process on the number line. So basically when I do these problems on the number line, the long and short of it is you're going to start here. You're going to move whatever the second number says. Okay, if this number is positive, you're going to move to the right. If the number's negative, you're going to move to the left. Okay, and that's kind of the long and short of it. So in this problem, yeah, we've got fractions, but they have a common denominator. Okay, so if we think about our sevenths, let's say every one of these little marks is a seventh. This would be 0. This would be negative 1/7. Here's negative 2/7. And after 0 to the right, we'd have positive 1/7. Okay, you can kind of ignore the 7s because they all had them. Okay, we start at negative 2/7, negative 1/7, 0, positive 1. Okay, so again, the idea here is we're going to start at negative 2. Okay, because we're adding a positive number, the 1/7 is positive, we move to the right 1 unit. Okay, so this action here is the plus 1/7. And then where we end up, that's our answer. Woohoo! So this here is what it equals. This is where we end on the answer. Okay, so it turns out this equals negative 1/7. I'm going to put a box around that because that's my answer. Okay, so that's the general process of the number line, and that's the idea with the P and the Q. So now let's look at these problems. So up here, one way to find the sum of P and Q is to find P on the number line and count absolute value of Q spaces to the left or right of P. Let's talk about that absolute value. Okay, absolute value is the number's distance away from 0. Okay, it's a measurement of distance. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, I sometimes talk about this as a shower door. So the absolute value kind of looks like one of those skinny showers, you know, where you stand up and you're right next to the walls. And so if you think of negative as dirty and positive as clean, everything comes out clean. Okay, if you go in the shower dirty, you come out clean. If you go in clean, you come out clean. So if you take the absolute value of a positive number, like 10, its distance from 0 is 10 units. Comes out clean, it's positive. Let's say you took negative 10. Okay, let's get in a shower. It's still 10 units away, it's just on the other side, right? So there it is, positive 10. Okay, so let's just kind of think of this absolute value thing. This here, that was how far I moved. Okay, count absolute value of Q spaces. So back over here when I said I was adding positive 1/7, okay, and then I did that whole thing about, well, it's positive, so I'm going to move to the right. That's the absolute value. Okay, anyway, So here, count absolute value of Q spaces to the left or right. Okay, that's what they're talking about here. The absolute value is the number of spaces you have moved. All right, so if Q is positive, that's what I just did. Q is positive. Okay, if Q is positive, we're going to go to the right. Okay, if Q is negative, we're going to go to the left. Okay, the big picture here, remember the first number is where you start. Okay, the second number is how far you're going to move. Okay, the sign of the second number tells us if we're going to move left or right. So this here, this was the moving left or right. The amount we move, that's the absolute value. Okay, wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Okay, so here's another. This one is from, I think, the quick check. Okay, and you can see it's the same question. It's just multiple choice. Okay, which of the following describes the sum of P plus negative Q, where P and Q are positive numbers? Okay, so remember the P is where you start. The Q, the absolute value of Q, is how far you move. Okay, and then the sign of it tells us whether we're going to move left or right. Okay, remember the number line. If you go to the right, that's where positive infinity is. If you go to the left, that's where negative infinity is. Okay, so Q is negative, so I'm going to be looking to move Q units left. And you guys, this is a strategy that I use with multiple choice. Sometimes I don't even look at the choices. If it's really confusing and a lot of reading, I'm going to think about what I think the answer is first. Because when I look at these choices, they all look exactly the same to me. Okay? So like, see the sum, this is all the same. These are all the same, P plus negative Q. The number is located a distance. Okay, now we have differences here. Okay, the distance. Was the distance P or was it Q? Oh wait, it was Q, right? Because I already said P was the starting place. So I don't want these choices that have P in them. Okay, and so look, they are not having left or right. The difference here, am I going to move in the negative direction or the positive direction? Okay, I already decided when I did the problem for myself that I was going to move to the left. That's the negative direction. So I'm going to want to pick this one. All right. Okay, now look at this one. This is from your practice. This is item 3. I'm down here now. Okay, add rational numbers practice. Describe how to find the sum P plus Q using a number line if P equals negative 19 and Q equals 12.1. So I'm going to make a note here. This is where I start. Okay, and then the Q, this is how far I move. And then since Q is positive, equals to the right. So now I'm going to look at this stem that they've given me here. First, find blank on a number line. That sounds like starting at blank. Okay, first find. I'm going to think of that as start. Okay, and remember we start at P. So first I'm going to find negative 19 on a number line, then count blank spaces to the right. Well, I already knew that Q was how far I'm going to move, and it was to the right. Okay, plus it's the only other number in the problem. So I'm going to put 12.1 here. Okay, Q is how far I'm moving to the right. All right, guys, good luck. Mind your P's and Q's. If you don't know what that means, you should look it up. It's an old saying.